If Donald Trump sets foot on British soil, let's meet him with one of the biggest demonstrations, if not the biggest, that this country has ever seen. In January, with just 36 hours notice, we organised a demo where tens of thousands of people in dozens of towns and cities across the country took to the streets, united in opposition to the hatred, the bigotry, the racism that Donald Trump represents. It stretched all the way from where I'm standing here in Parliament Square to Trafalgar Square. Donald Trump retweeting a neo-Nazi organisation promoting anti-Muslim hatred fits into a broader pattern of a racist demagogue who has repeatedly stirred up hatred against Muslims, called of course for a Muslim ban, tried to implement one as best he could. He's a man who called Mexican immigrants rapists.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Falsely claimed that thousands of New Jersey Muslims celebrated 9/11.
I read about it on the internet.
He spread racist lies about Barack Obama not really being American.
He's got a grandmother in Kenya who said he was born in Kenya at the hospital.
And at Charlottesville, where you had fascists who were confronted by anti-fascists, he equated them both. He said there was violence on many sides, many sides.
You will not replace us!
And he also suggested that there were very fine people on the side of the fascists. This man is a stooge for the far-right movement. When Theresa May offered a state visit to Donald Trump, she extended an honour, a privilege that not all US presidents have had, and which no US president has been offered as quickly as she offered Donald Trump. Now, that helped legitimise him. He could use it as a prop, the special relationship, if you like. And we can't end up in a situation, this country, where we end up as the poodle of the United States. If Britain is shackled to Donald Trump, we are shackled to the wrong side of history. A majority of Americans didn't even vote for him. He's increasingly despised by his own people. He's the most unpopular president since records began. How will we look to the other America, the America which reviles everything he stands for, if we're there lauding him with pomp and ceremony here in Britain? But it's not just about Donald Trump. It's about what he represents. It's about joining those dots. Because racism and fascism and scapegoating are rampant, not just, of course, in the United States, but all over the Western world. And we know, of course, that tens of millions of people have died in the past fighting fascists and racists who once almost reduced the whole continent of Europe to rubble in a genocidal war. And we see today in Britain the scapegoating of immigrants who are demonised by our media, by our politicians, as being criminals and murderers and rapists and threats to our public services. Our own Prime Minister, Theresa May, infamously sent vans emblazoned with "Go Home" around ethnically mixed communities. And when she was Home Secretary, refugees filmed themselves having sex with their partners to prove that they were gay, to avoid being deported to places where their lives could be at risk. And that's why we don't just have to take on Trump. We've got to take on Trumpism. We've got to take on that system, that rotten system that helped produce Donald Trump in the United States in the first place. That combination of social and economic injustice and rampant racism and bigotry that deflects blame and responsibility for all the problems that we face away from those at the top to the people down the street instead. We can't be sure when Donald Trump will actually set foot in this country, if at all, and we may have very, very little notice, if any notice whatsoever. Trump and Trumpism will be defeated, and it's up to us to take to the streets in our hundreds of thousands to prove it. I want to hear your thoughts. Do leave your comments. How can we build for it? How can we get the message out? How can we unite our country to show that the vast majority of people here reject Trump and everything he stands for? So leave your comments as ever. We've got loads of videos. Click on them and subscribe. And as ever, I'll see you next time.